Sometimes a court case comes along that reads more like a legal thriller than a dry document. Well, this is one of them. It's a story that starts with a serious crime, but then follows a police investigation that just goes completely off the rails. And it all ends with a verdict from Canada's highest court that forced the entire justice system to take a long, hard look in the mirror. Let's get into the case of R v. Côté. And really, it all boils down to this one huge question. What happens when the people who are sworn to uphold the law are the very ones who break it? I mean, is getting a conviction more important than protecting our most fundamental rights? That's the tightrope we're going to be walking today. So our story kicks off on what should have been a totally normal summer night, July 22nd, 2006. It all starts with a single, simple call for help, a call that would end up spiraling into something much, much darker. Okay, so at 9 p.m., a frantic 911 call comes in from Armand Côté. But by 11, the police get a pretty chilling update from the hospital. Her spouse, Andre Hogue, wasn't just injured. He's been shot in the back of the head. So just after midnight, officers show up at a dark, silent house. And when Mrs. Côté opens the door in her pajamas, it's pretty clear she has no idea they're coming. And right here, this is the first critical decision that really shapes this entire case. The police know they're almost certainly dealing with a gunshot wound, but they tell Mrs. Côté they're just there to check on her and make sure the home is safe. Now, this wasn't some mistake. It was a deliberate choice to keep her in the dark from the absolute beginning. That initial choice to mislead her, well, that was just the first domino to fall. What came next wasn't just one misstep, oh no. It was a whole cascade of constitutional breaches, what a trial judge would later call a systematic violation of her rights. I mean, just look at what the trial judge found. It's staggering. The police searched her home without a warrant, just a total violation of her privacy. They detained her without telling her why. They denied her the right to a lawyer. They completely steamrolled her right to silence during the interrogation. And then, to top it all off, they later misled a judge to get warrants after they'd already done the illegal searches. It's just, wow. And you really have to listen to the exact words the trial judge used here. This isn't just dry legalese. It is a powerful, powerful condemnation. He's saying, look, this was not an accident. This wasn't a one-off mistake. This was a deliberate and continuous pattern of misconduct, from the moment they stepped on her property until the very end. Now, let's just think about the human side of this for a second. Miss Côté is taken from her home at 3 in the morning. She isn't even properly told her rights for over 2 hours. And then she's put through this grueling day-long interrogation where she says she wants to be silent over 20 times, and she's just ignored again and again. So with all of this misconduct just hanging over the case, it finally gets to court. But, this wasn't just a trial for Armand Côté. It really became a trial of the evidence itself and of how that evidence was collected. And it led to a result that, honestly, nobody saw coming. Okay, to really get what happened next, you need to know about this key tool in Canada's legal system, Section 24(2) of the Charter. The best way to think about it is like the justice system's quality control button. It basically says that if evidence was gathered illegally, a judge has to throw it out if allowing it in court would make the public lose faith in the whole system. So, facing this mountain of police misconduct, the trial judge makes this incredibly bold, almost unheard of decision. He excludes every single piece of evidence that was gathered by breaking the rules. The rifle, what the police saw, everything. And with no evidence left, the Crown's case just completely collapses. Armand Côté is acquitted. But, of course, the story doesn't end there. The Crown appeals, and the Court of Appeal actually overturns the acquittal. They said, look, the evidence was reliable, and, this is key, it was discoverable, which means the police would have found it legally eventually anyway. So this sets up this huge legal showdown. Does the awful police conduct matter more than the reliable evidence they found? So the case lands at the Supreme Court of Canada, and now they have to settle this debate once and for all. And to do that, they use a modern, really powerful legal framework that was designed for exactly this kind of problem. It's called the Grant test. And the Grant test is brilliant because it gives the court a clear 3-step analysis. First, they look at how serious the state's conduct was. Was this a huge, deliberate violation or just a minor slip-up? Second, they look at the impact on the accused. How badly were their rights actually trampled? And third, they weigh society's interest. How important and reliable is this evidence for getting to the truth? So, the big question is, how did the Supreme Court apply this three-part test to the wild facts of this case? Because in this final act, it really felt like it wasn't just Ms. Côté on trial, but the entire justice system. And when you see how they applied the test, it all becomes crystal clear. First up, the state's conduct. They called it very serious. The police deliberately ignored the rules and then tried to cover their tracks. Second, the impact on Ms. Côté. Also serious. A huge invasion of her home, her freedom, her dignity. And third, society's interest? Well, yeah, solving a murder is obviously super important, but the court saw a bigger interest at stake here, refusing to give a stamp of approval to lawless police work. So it all came down to this final balancing act. The Supreme Court basically said that the police behavior was so disturbing and aberrant that using the evidence they found would do more damage to the public's faith in justice than the acquittal itself would. The bottom line? The long-term health of the justice system had to come first. And with that, the Supreme Court of Canada made its final decision. They overturned the Court of Appeal's ruling, and they restored the trial judge's original verdict. Armand Côté was acquitted. And in their final judgment, the Supreme Court didn't just agree with the trial judge. They actually praised him. They said he took the only path he could to protect the system's reputation by refusing to condone such terrible misconduct. I mean, that is an incredibly strong message about where the line has to be drawn. So this whole case leaves us right back where we started, with that same essential question. But now it has the weight of a landmark ruling behind it. The Côté case serves as this powerful, permanent reminder that the rules aren't just suggestions. It sent a crystal clear message to law enforcement all across the country. Evidence, no matter how important it seems, can and will be thrown out if the rights of citizens are systematically ignored to get it.